Hello and welcome to Copy That, the series from Quadcast that's all about copywriting. I'm your host Lewis, and today I'm joined by Ash Billinghay to talk all things copy. Ash, thanks so much for being here. It's great to have you on.
Thanks for having me, Lewis. I'm excited to be on a podcast that talks positively about copywriting rather than the podcast I usually listen to, which talk about true crime and murders that haven't been solved yet. This is a different sort of tone for me, which is nice.
Brilliant. I mean, we can still talk about true crime and murders if you like. I mean, the day
I'd
is
love
still
that,
young.
yeah.
Who killed the copywriter? Perfect.
Oh, nice.
So I just want to get started by asking you the same question that I ask everybody to start with. How did you get into copywriting?
I was a very socially awkward boy. And I say boy, I was socially awkward until I was about 18, which I don't know whether you class as a man. But I struggled to speak. So I'd go days at like sixth form where I just wouldn't speak to people. And then I'd come home and someone introduced me to a thing called the internet. And AOL was the only thing that was online at the time. And I'd log on and Joanna Lumley would say, "Welcome to AOL." And I found chatrooms. And I started talking on chatrooms. And I was like, people find me funny. People are like responding to me. I feel less nervous. I can say what I want to say without feeling like threatened or without getting the sweats that I used to get if I said it in public. And I'd kind of peel back my incredibly long hair that I had at the time and just think, you know what, I feel good about myself now because I'm chatting to people. I'm not feeling scared. And I was on those chat rooms for a couple of years. And one day I saw there was a Channel 4 documentary all about two guys that were making an advert for Robinson's Fruit Shoots. And I was like, hang on, people do this for a living. This guy's writing the jokes I write, but he's getting paid for it. So I started looking into that and thinking, how can I turn what is at the time like quite a lonely little thing that I do in my bedroom where I'm just chatting to strangers on the internet? How can I make money doing that and maybe be able to do it in the real world one day? So I searched sort of advertising degree courses, found a course at university for creative advertising, went along to that. Initially with a portfolio full of like I'd done loads of artwork, I'd done loads of design stuff in like A-levels, thinking, oh, maybe I'll make it like an advertising graphic designer or art director. And the guy took one look at it and said, "You'd be a great copywriter." So I was like, either that's a diss on my artwork or he's seen something in me that I didn't know I had. And that's basically one man told me I'd be a good copywriter, and I've really stuck to that ever since. And I'm 35 now, so how long ago was that? I'm no good with maths, but yeah, he said that to me one day, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, you're right. I'll stick to that forever.
That's brilliant. Just one piece of advice, guidance, positive feedback from one person. It kind of sets you on this whole career trajectory. That's really cool.
It was either positive feedback or it was a diss that I wasn't very good at art. And either way, I took it and ran with it.
Well, I mean, art is subjective. So, I mean, we'll park it and go, no, you were good at the art. He just thought, no, I see this for you as well. I like the thought of that.
Approach.
Turn it into more of a positive. So what's your setup now? Are you freelance? Do you work in-house? Are you agency?
I'm freelance. I've been freelance officially for the last 3 years, unofficially for about 5 years. Two former employees don't need to know I was doing that at the time. But I think freelance is always something I wanted to do, but never knew if I would be not good enough, but brave enough to do it. I can remember when I worked in agencies for a good 12 years, and I'd see freelance copywriters come in almost like these cowboys from the Wild West, just like sit down, do a couple of jobs for a few days, go home with a massive paycheck bigger than the one I'd got all month. And then you see them again in a few months' time, and you're like, how's your life been? And they'd have all these stories of where they'd been and what they'd worked on, and thinking, but that sounds fun. And I said to myself, probably about 5 times, I'm going to leave this job and go freelance. And I definitely told a few bosses that, you know, I'm handing my notice in to go freelance. And then another job would always come up. And I'd be like, oh, that seems safer. Like we were buying a house at the time. We were planning a wedding. I was like, that's guaranteed income there. It's not really the job I want to do, but it will pay me every month. And I know that. So I'll do that one instead. I kept putting it off. And then eventually I was like, I started picking up a bit of freelance work. And I was surprised by how many people wanted to work with me, because I've always been a bit of I put myself down in sort of an irreverent way most of the time when I'm talking about myself. And I was like, maybe everyone else believes what I say about myself, but everyone else has seen my work and thought, no, let's work with this guy. And before I knew it, I had too much freelance work to be full-time working at the same time. And I was like, hang on, why am I doing full-time work? It's getting in the way of the work I actually want to do. So I handed my notice in for the final time, told my wife I was going to do it, who was pregnant with our first child, and off I went into the wild.
That's amazing. I think taking the jump from obviously like corporate, we'll say, to I'm going to do it, I'm going to go freelance, that must have been really like quite intimidating, especially with every kind of so many life events happening around you at the time.
When I first said I was going to do it, I felt excited. It was like, I'm going to try something new. It was the day I actually did it where I was like, oh, I have to do it now. And like, what if I think everyone has this fear when they first do it. What if no one ever wants to work with me ever again? And what if I never earn another penny? Then it's very cool. The line between freelance and unemployed is very thin. And all it takes is a couple of months where no one pays you to be, oh yeah, I'm just out of work.
Yeah.
I'm just a guy who can't afford his mortgage and is relying on his wife's salary to live, which I could happily live like that. Like, there's so much great daytime TV on.
Yeah.
I've watched The Chase religiously.
Really catch up on Neighbours.
I would catch up so much at Hollyoaks Omnibus every day. I'd learn so much about what's happening in Hollyoaks. But I think it's the fear that kind of keeps me going. So I've been lucky that I've never had like a hugely barren spell. I've had quieter months, I've had dips, but the work always finds its way back to me. And then, like I said, I've been doing it 3 years now, and I'm still eating food. I'm still paying my mortgage. I can still afford to get my hair cut and wash my clothes and stuff. So far, so good.
I'd really recommend that everybody listening goes and checks out Ash's website, because I saw it, and there's a simplistic yet just really irreverent style to it that I responded to it so well that it made me, I was like laughing, and I don't ever laugh at a copywriter's website, and it was just really good. It's just when you open it and it says, sorry, excuse me for paraphrasing, but the best copywriter in the world called Ash Billinghay. Like, that's just phenomenal stuff. So
I find it really, every copywriter I'm sure struggles to sell themselves, because you sell so many other things. So I was like, what's the one thing I can say about myself that can't be argued in court? And I can't say I'm the best copywriter in the world, because there probably is someone better, but I can say I'm the best copywriter in the world called Ash Billinghay. And if another Ash Billinghay is ever born, it'll be like a Highlander scenario where only one of us could live.
That's perfect, because it's just, rather than going so like uber specific with, no, I'm going to make this really wide ranging claim about myself, it's no, I'm going to make this very specific claim that no one can argue against. So I would love to know, how would you describe your tone of voice within your own writing?
I think you used the word irreverent, and that is a word I'd use to describe myself. I don't try and take myself too seriously, because life's quite short, and I think if you're not having fun with it, then you're missing out on a good chunk of laughs. I think my tone of voice started with the clients I started working on. So one of the first clients I ever worked on was a Vimto, who were like children's soft drink favourite from the early noughties, which anyone older than 18 will remember from like being was it a dirty Vimto or something like that, a cheeky Vimto, which had no Vimto in it whatsoever, just get me absolutely wrecked. And their tone of voice was just silly, and I just got to have fun with it. And I thought, I enjoy writing like this, and I'd always try to make people laugh and stuff. So I thought, what if I can do this for a financial benefit? Naturally, when I start writing anything down, I go down an irreverent route. I try sarcastic. Even when I'm working for clients whose tone of voice is completely opposite, the first draft of what I write for them will be the way I'd write it.
Yeah. And
that's how I get the ideas out on paper quickly. It's how I get the point across best, because it's natural for me to write that way. And I found myself laughing along with what I'm writing, which looks stupid when you're working in a coffee shop and you're giggling at your screen and you're like, what are you laughing at? Oh, it's something I wrote. I found myself so funny and clever. But it helps me get the work out. And then I can go from there and kind of take out the bits that I would say and put in the bits the client would say. I had a creative director a few years ago who I present ideas to, and he'd say, that's a bit too Ash. And what he meant by that was, it's a bit too tongue-in-cheek, it's a bit too silly. Whereas now I naturally write everything a bit too Ash and then take Ash out later on.
I think that's perfect, because clients that you have, they're choosing to work with you, so they're going to want that sort of tone, but they also then want to know that you can adapt that as best as you can. Exactly. So do you find it difficult to then take the Ash out of the copy that you write?
It depends a lot on the client I'm working on. I get some clients that come to me for my tone, and then I present them that, and they don't really want it. What they want is something a little bit toned back, or even pushed further forward. That's where I maybe find it more of a challenge, because I'm like, there's the nuances there that I think are funny. And if a client doesn't think my sense of humor is funny, then it's more of a case of thinking, right, what would you find amusing there instead of what I've said? Does my sense of humor translate? I work on clients that I've got a global audience. So does my sense of humor translate to a Chinese audience, for example? If you still want my tone of voice, but it has to be translatable in different languages, then the tone of voice doesn't really work. It's clients where they want to be the complete opposite. I find them quite easy, because I can write in a very straight, serious way, I've done a lot of work for financial banks, fintech companies who it's generally quite dry, and I can write clear, concise copy. And then what I tend to find happens is when I've worked with them for a while, they start to want to have a bit more fun with it because they've spoken to me, they've seen how I work, and they're like, oh, well, we could try doing a little bit more like you do it. And then gradually I bring everyone in my direction until one day the world will be full of brands that all sound like me, and everyone will be sick of it. They're like everyone trying to sound like Innocent Smoothies for a few years. They'll be like, God, every brand is just the same. And I'll be there counting my money, being like, these are all me. I've made a lot of these happen.
But a lot of the best branding has that tongue-in-cheek element to it, of whether it's cheeky, whether it's a little bit risque. If you're prepared to try and entertain or at least humor your audience, then that is more interesting to read. It's more engaging. You might get a few people that don't like it, but so what?
Yeah, advertising, it has to engage. The whole point of it is to stop people in their tracks and get people looking their way. And if you're trying to write in a boring, dry way, people aren't going to stop doing what they're doing because they're being hit with so many other adverts all the time. Like you open your phone, the first thing you see is an advert. You turn on TV, advert. You leave the house, it's everywhere. And we're almost becoming a bit blind to it because we see it all over the place. So you have to try something a bit different. You have to be willing to take risks in order to stop people scrolling, to stop people swiping, to pop-ups all over your screen. Yours has to be the one that people see and think, oh, that's different. Yeah. And if you can grab their attention up front with something a little bit silly or a little bit risky, then you've done half the job.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I can't remember the last sort of advert, whether it's TikTok or just on the telly, where it stopped me in my tracks and gone, oh, that was good. I don't remember what the last thing would have been, which, whether that speaks to my attention span or whether that speaks to the quality of the advertising that's out there at the minute, I don't know. But it's, surely if the entire goal is to be memorable, they're failing.
Yeah, I think so. Especially now you can fast forward through the ads on most TV now. You've got a remote control that just says, I don't want to see this, or you can pay a bit extra so you don't have to see it. And adverts have to work so much harder. And I think that's why a lot of them fall into the trap of just hitting you with price points up front, with having almost display ads on TV where it's like, buy now, here's the number to call, here's how much you save. Because they think, right, we only got a split second to get people interested. We haven't got enough time to tell a story. Whereas really, the adverts I remember sharing with my friends or talking about at work the next day all did tell a story. I always remember there was a Honda advert for a diesel engine, and it was hate something, change something. And that song stayed in my head forever. And I'll still go onto YouTube to watch that advert because it's silly, even though they were trying to say that diesel engines were better for the environment, which we now know to be bollocks. At the time, it was a fun advert. Or there was a Skoda car advert where all the little nuts and bolts rolled onto each other to form this big sort of, I can't remember the guy's name who does them professionally, but this motion video where everything knocked onto something else and create this beautiful car at the end of it. Cadbury's Gorilla advert, mental idea of a gorilla playing drums.
It's a brilliant advert.
Talks about it the next day. Whereas no one shares an advert if it's boring.
Yeah.
No one's going to go, guys, come back and look at what I've just seen. It's this really dull advert. No one does that. And then I don't see why you're wasting your money on putting that information out into the world if no one's going to look at it.
Yeah, exactly. I always love around Christmas time. Sorry, this is just a complete tangent, but you talking about the gorilla advert has just made me think of this. I always love on Channel 5 around Christmas time, they've got the UK's favourite adverts, the UK's most controversial TV moments. And it's just, I always love to sit and watch that because advertising 10, 15, 20 years ago is so much more distinctive than it is now. I think everything is kind of quite homogenous and everything's quite going for a similar tone to try and appeal to more of an influencer crowd rather than like a bigger, wide-ranging, full national audience. So it's just interesting.
I think the problem, and I'm going to offend a lot of listeners, and I don't mind doing that, is data. I think data has ruined advertising, and the data will say that people want to see an advert like this. People are more likely to click on a button if it says click here.
Yeah.
So everyone does the same thing. And people might have been more likely to do that if that was the only button saying it like that. But when every button is doing the same thing, when every ad is doing the same thing to appeal to the same metrics, the data is no longer relevant. Data wouldn't have said a guy dressed in a gorilla suit playing Phil Collins is going to work, but it did work.
Yeah.
And it's the whole point of creativity is that you think of things other people haven't thought of. Data can't tell you what other people haven't thought of because they haven't thought of it yet. So it takes people to be a bit creative, to think of something different in order to get eyes looking in the right direction.
I tell a lie, actually. I was There is one advert that really sticks out to me, but I've not seen it on the telly. I've only seen it at the cinema. And it's a KFC advert that's like a group of like chanting tribes in a
Yeah.
in a forest, and then all of a sudden like a piece of fried chicken rises from this river, and it's so bizarre, but it's so fantastic because it's so like completely absurdist. And I love that kind of tone. It just really does it for me, that.
Yeah, it feels like it's a cult film. You can go
Yeah.
and watch that at the cinema because it's been so well done and it's so different to anything else. And there's like, they've done a train of them where there's a chicken dancing in the middle of the high street, a huge chicken, people
Yeah.
worshipping it. And it's a mental idea because you're worshipping a chicken that you're going to deep fry and then eat. And I just love that they've had that thought and ran with it, and that the agencies have had the thought, and then KFC have gone, you know what, yeah, do it.
Yeah. And even though you can tell there's been a million meetings about it, they've still gone, whatever, do your thing. And that's
Yeah.
it's the kind of trust that you just need to be able to have in your creatives, to just let them
Yeah,
do
it
their
really
thing.
is.
Because if you
Yeah.
just come out with another really plain basic come and eat it KFC type advert, nobody's going to go. No way, you're not
No.
going to get more people through the door than are already there.
Yeah, exactly.
Do something memorable, do something crazy. So we mentioned very briefly that you did stuff with the financial industry, and I'd love to know if you've specialised in a particular niche or a particular industry within your freelance work.
It has sadly been banking. It wasn't on purpose. So it just happened. One of my biggest clients from my agency time was First Direct. I wrote First Direct code voice guidelines. I did loads of paid media as First Direct press ads, and just really sort of crafted their tone of voice. And then I did a lot for HSBC. And then people saw that I'd done stuff for First Direct and HSBC. And I'm like, oh, you understand banking. And then you find yourself doing stuff for fintech brands, for startups, for banking that isn't going to be as fun as the likes of First Direct, but still, you know the language, you understand what the abbreviations mean. And before you know it, your portfolio is full of banking copy.
Yeah.
Thinking, how did I end up here? This isn't the dream. But then you find yourself like, actually, it's doing all right for me. I understand the industry. I kind of get what people want to achieve from it. People are doing exciting things within banking. And if they're coming to me to talk about them, great. Then I've also done a lot of work in the public sector. So I've done loads of bus ads. I've helped so many people catch the bus. Again, I don't know how that's happened. I can't say there's a niche I've actually worked to achieve. It's just a niche that has befallen me. And yeah, I go through my work now and I'm like, God, I've done loads of stuff for buses. I've done trains. I've done a lot of stuff in just one town in Barnsley. It's full of my adverts at the minute for prostate cancer awareness. And I'm like, I don't know how I've conquered Barnsley so well, but you can't go through Barnsley without seeing my work.
That's fantastic. King of Barnsley.
Yeah, what a claim.
Marketing king of Barnsley. No, that's great. I mean, that's a tagline in itself. Ash Billinghay, I'll help you catch the bus.
Yeah, it is.
That's fantastic. So how will you usually find yourself starting on a piece of copy? Will you always start with the sort of Ash version of something and then dial it back a bit? Or are you a planner? How will you get started?
Depends on how good the brief is. If the brief's good enough, then I can just dive into it. I can kind of do a bit of research, read through the brief, chat with the client, get as much knowledge as I can from them. Then I always go away and write a first draft, just a quick draft in a loose tone of voice that just covers the basics, send it back to the client and say, have I got all the essentials that you need included in this copy? And if I have, great, I can go away and hone it and make it sound more like you. If the brief's a bit less good, or maybe the client doesn't really know what they want, then I stop copywriting and just go outside and do something very different for a bit, and kind of let do you know, like when you put a tea bag in a cup of tea?
Yeah.
If you take the tea bag out straight away, the tea tastes shit, and you've not got a cup of tea, you've just got hot water that's a bit brown. I put this is going to be a wanky metaphor, but I've started it, so I'm going to go with it. And I put the creative tea bag in my brain and go away and let the tea bag settle for a bit. And then I come back when it's all nice and strong and tea flavored, and then I start.
Nice.
That was awful. Sorry.
No, that's fantastic. You brew your brain.
I bring my own brain, yeah. They're saying it there, like the writer's worst enemy is a blank page. And if you are working on a hard brief and you're just staring at a blank screen, you're not going to get anything out of it. But if you go away and think about something else, or you go away and write like little idea pots down where you just write a few different things, work on a few one-liners, then the blank page isn't scary anymore and you can fill it with stuff.
I think of all of the answers that I've had to that question, that's my favorite, because just the idea of, putting the teabag in your brain, it's just fantastic. I think,
Yeah.
I have a tendency a lot of the time, I'll sit there, if something's just not coming to me, I'll sit there and feel sorry for myself for 10 minutes and then just force myself to get on with it. And it's because
I've been there.
I'm pretty merciless when it comes to myself. With other people, I'm very supportive, but with myself, it's like, you will do it and you will be the best that you can be at all times. Like absolute perfectionist when it comes to myself, but nobody else. It's, yeah.
I've definitely sat there before, staring at a screen, forced myself to write words that I don't feel good about. And then you're thinking, oh, I've wasted a lot of time here doing stuff that isn't my best work.
Yeah.
And I've kind of got to send it over now. And sometimes the client will read it and all they want is the bare minimum. They don't really want the world. They just want something to put out there. And they're like, yeah, that'll do. But I like to always give my best work. And I know I do my best work when I've not forced myself to write it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of the thing with being a freelancer is kind of building that reputation for yourself as well, to make sure that the quality of your work is constantly there so that people can read it and go, wow, I'm going to work with him.
Yeah. It's like if you go to a restaurant that you love, but one day the restaurant serves you something that's not quite cooked right, or the service is a bit off, you might not go back to that restaurant.
Yeah.
Even if you've been 20 times before and had a great experience, one bad experience can put you off. And I think I've got a lot of clients that come back to me regularly because they know I'll deliver good work, I'm fast, I'm reliable. If I give them something that's a bit off once, there's loads of other copywriters out there that will do it.
Yeah.
So I'm not one of a kind, I'm one of a million. You look at any LinkedIn post where it's like looking for a freelance copywriter, thousands of people have engaged within the first minute, all saying they'll do it for a $5.
Yeah.
You think, oh, I don't want to do it for a $5. I'd be good for this job, but I'm not going to get seen. So if I do a bad job once, then unless it's a really forgiving client, they'll find another freelance copywriter to do it for them next time.
Yeah.
So yeah, consistency is key.
Exactly. It's so important to just maintain. And I think it's really important for people to be really happy, for copywriters to be really happy with the work that they're producing. And so my next question, I'm wondering, how often will you edit something or how often will you rewrite something, whether that's when you've sent it off to the client or before you send it off? What's your process there?
Depends on the kind of brief I'm working on, really. So my main briefs are either advertising copy, tone of voice, guideline copy, or website copy. With ad copy, where it's more I'm writing ideas first, then I'll get loads of ideas down on a page, literally empty my brain out onto the page. And then I'll go back and take out all the stuff that makes no sense, leave it a few hours, come back to it, take out everything that is nonsense or everything that I found silly at the time, but looking back is the humour of a child and not an adult. And then whittle it down to like the best ones before sending it to the client. If it's tone of voice work, that's more of a collaborative process anyway. So I'll work with the client quite closely on that to make sure they're happy with how they sound and that I'm getting the best version of them across. So that's kind of an edit as you go situation. With website copy, it tends to be around three or four drafts before I send it to the client. I'll do like one page first, like a key home page or something like that, edit it with the client again so that they know that they're happy with everything.
Yeah.
I always think I've got a system where if I'm really proud of something, I'll fight for it and I'll push back. But then if a client pushes back on my pushback, then I'm thinking, you know what, you're paying me, so you get what you want.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue too much. I think editing your own work is really hard because you've obviously written something because you're happy with the way it sounds and you feel excited by it. But it's even harder when the client kills your idea. So if you're willing to kill your own ideas before the client gets a chance, then it saves you later on.
That's a really interesting take of managing people's expectations. And I think when you're working with clients long term, especially, it's just so important to make sure that you kind of have this really healthy working dynamic where you're both happy with the work that you're producing. And so I'm wondering, off the back of that question, when it comes to clients that you do have, do you prefer long-term relationships or are you more of a one-off projects kind of guy?
Like a mix. I like a little bit of a mix. The long-term relationships are great because they're reliable. You get to know the client really well. You get to know the work you're doing. So for a good couple of years, this is niche, I was the voice of Samsung's internal comms academy. So if you were most of my audience were like 16-year-olds. They were in a summer break from school and they were working at Curry.bc World and they had to sell Samsung products. You'd log onto a website called the Samsung Academy and I was the voice of your training. And I got to know the client so well that they let me become this all-seeing kind of god of Samsung technology. and I got to have so much fun with it. Like, I was talking about incredibly complicated technology, these amazing TVs, these sound systems that cost thousands of pounds, and I was writing about it in a very, very silly way. And it was just a lot of fun, and it worked because the audience were teenagers. They found it funny. It was different to the usual dry training that we're seeing every day. They weren't working in a job that they were passionate about. So just adding a little bit of fun to their day meant that it worked.
Yeah.
And I got to have a lot of fun. And I did that for 2 years. So I really understood HD TVs. I understood sound bars, projectors, loads of stuff that I just knew the language of. And the tone of voice just came really naturally to me. But then if I was doing that and nothing else, I'd get a little bit bored of it. So having the odd one-off projects that come in that are a bit of a surprise, where it might be an industry you've not worked in before, it might be a client you've never heard of before, that keeps the job interesting. And ultimately, that's the whole reason I went freelance, is I wanted a bit of diversity in my schedule. I didn't want to be doing the same client work all the time. I wanted the odd job that was very different, to dip my toe into waters that I'd never normally dip my toe into. So I think my main week at the minute is probably 40% regular clients, 60% new work. And often it's one-off projects from a client I've worked with before. So maybe they'll go 6 months, 7 months before coming back to me, and then hit me with another project. And it's something I've dabbled in the past, but I've not done every day. Whereas the work that I can just churn out is stuff that I do regularly, and it's stuff that I'm comfortable with.
I need to know, how on earth did you become the voice of that Samsung Learning Hub thing?
Do you know that thing where it's like, it's not what you know, it's who you know?
Yeah.
I think I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone who, by default, saw my work. I think she did what you did and saw my website and was like, that guy's an idiot, let's hire him. And read about my silly tone of voice. We're like, we love your tone of voice. Do you think it could work to sell technology to teenagers? And I was like, let's find out. And they were a really trusting client. They put a lot of faith in me. I got to know them really well. I still know them now. And it just meant that, like we were saying about great advertising earlier on, like, if the client trusts the creative to do what they do best, you'll get good work out of it.
Yeah. Amazing. I think if someone comes to you and says, does your tone of voice, do you think it could be used to sell something to teenagers? I think the answer to that is a definitive yes.
Always yes.
Yes.
Always yes.
I identify as a moron. So, there's like a really irreverent sort of humor that really, really speaks to me, not to make it sound like, irreverent humor only speaks to morons, but it's just, I like sort of that style of comedy. I like that tone, and as I said, it really does it for me. So
it's so rare that a client comes to you and says, we want exactly you the way you already are. Nearly always it's like, read our tone of voice guidelines before you start, or can you do it like this instead? So when a client does come to you and says, we've read how you write naturally, will you write that for us? You say yes, whatever the job is.
So I want to move away from the work side of things now, and I want to ask you about something that I think is quite a hot take within the kind of copywriter and marketing communities. And I'd love to know what your take on AI tools in copywriting are. And it's interesting to ask everybody this, because I feel up to this point, everybody's got very similar answers, but different ways of answering it. So I'm just wondering, what's your stance?
I think AI is the biggest fad of the modern generation.
Right.
I think if you look at LinkedIn and there's like a monthly cycle of LinkedIn stuff, something will come up where someone on LinkedIn says, guys, this new thing is here. It's going to kill the old way of doing things. And if you're not doing this new thing already, you're already being left behind. And then you leave it a few months, and all of a sudden everyone's talking about the new thing. People have changed their job titles to say they're specialists in this new thing. And then you see the parodies of the new thing come in, and you see the examples of the new thing working, and you're like, oh, actually, that's not very good. And then slowly but surely, the people that were initially heroing the new thing are like, guys, I've created this new version of this new thing. The old version of this new thing is dead. And if you're not doing this already, you're already being left behind. And you've seen that with everything. Like, at first it was social media. Like, it was, Facebook is going to kill traditional advertising. Traditional advertising is dead. Facebook's here to do it. There was a song that video was going to kill the radio star. And there's always been something that's going to kill something else. And then you look now and no one uses Facebook anymore. Facebook's dead, and advertising has killed Facebook.
Yeah.
Social media advertising is the thing people hate most about social media, and it's why people are using it less and less. Video is dead. Radio stars are still a thing, and you still listen to the radio. So in my opinion, AI is another version of that, where it's this new thing, and it's clever. Like, I've seen it work, but I've never seen it produce good copywriting that's better than copywriting I could write.
Yes, definitely.
I've seen it churn stuff out, and if you want it for SEO purposes and you want to fill a website with stuff, by all means use it. But I think there's a lot of problems with it. I think it's terrible for the environment. I've read a lot of stuff about how much water it uses to power its cooling systems, how people that live in the communities around those cooling systems can't get fresh tap water. I think, why would you use something to write substandard copy if it's going to kill the environment around it? When you could use me to write better copy, and I don't kill the environment.
Yeah.
I've got an electric car, I use green energy providers, I recycle, I've got a compost bin. AI hasn't got a compost bin. AI is burning forests and boiling seas. I also think in the future, you'll look at the stuff that's producing AI and think, why the hell were we using it to write copy when look what it can do now? There was a story the other day about it had found a cure for a type of cancer. And it wasn't AI on itself doing it. It was doctors and scientists and really like experts in the field using the tools to find a solution. But it pieced all this information together and was like, oh, hey, have you thought about doing it this way? And it was clever. It was amazing. It can save lives. And then somewhere else, someone's using it to write a blog to try and rank for a keyword.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, what a waste of time. Why were we using it for that? People using it for copywriting are solving a problem that doesn't need to be solved, because there's already so many copywriters out there that could do a better job. And I think the only people that are using it for those purposes are those that want to save some money and get quick returns. I think if we keep doing it that way, eventually we're going to have an internet full of AI content that's copied from other AI content, and it's stealing content that's already been written by robots, all competing for itself. And I don't know who wants to read that. I don't know anyone out there in the world that's going, God, I wish a robot had answered this question. I tried Googling something the other day, and I have to read through so much AI-generated content before I find an answer that I'm happy to read. It goes, AI overview, paid ads, videos. I'm like, God, I want an answer.
Yeah.
I want a Wikipedia overview is what I want. I want a straight answer to my question, and I can't find one. I don't know whether it's because I work in the industry and I've seen how SEO works, and I've seen how people write things in a certain way to try and rank. But whenever I see a blog post about a thing I've searched for, I'm like, oh, I see what they've done here. I know why you're ranking first for this result. And the AI overview is doing the exact same thing. It's doing old school SEO methods to try and rank higher than other things and providing you a subpar answer. So yeah, if you hadn't told, I really don't like it. I don't like the way it's being used.
Yeah, I completely understand your stance, and I have to say I completely agree. I find that the ethical implications around AI are so deeply troubling to me, but I think that we are living in a time and place where ethical implications and environmental factors are so far down people's priority list that it's alarming, but it's not surprising. And I think I don't use it to write any of my copy. What I have used it for is research, because there are certain clients, and I've iterated this before on this podcast, I will say it again. There are certain clients that I have worked with in the past where I'm not an expert when it comes to their field, and I find it easier to go, here's a little bit of their brief, please point me in the right direction so that I can say, this is what I need to be looking at, because I've got no idea what the jumping off point would even be. And I need to be able to get to the jumping off point, and then I can take it from there. So that to me is, kind of as far and as wide as my usage goes. Sometimes I do use it just for like a spell check if it's a really, really long piece of work and I've missed out a couple of things. Sometimes I do get some self-doubt because I type really quickly, like really, really fast.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they'll be like, I've misspelled. I always misspell insurance. No, if I can type it slowly, it comes out as ignorance. It's just every single time I can't do it. So I always have to check for that. There's so much that can be said around this topic, and it's incredibly heartening for me that everybody that I've interviewed so far for this series has had more or less the same tone with their answers. Not everyone's had the same answer. And it's been nice to, I don't know, almost have that validation of, yes, like this is not here to replace human writers, because AI doesn't have the nuance that human writers have in order to be able to write a good piece of copy. And it could be whether it's nuanced through tone, whether it's nuanced through emotionality, whether it's nuanced through narrative. It doesn't matter. It just simply doesn't have it. AI doesn't have a place when it comes to writing content that is engaging. And there's so many dead giveaways when you are reading AI-generated copy anyway. it's not engaging to read, it's not interesting to read. And if anything, it turns me away from websites that I would otherwise
Yes,
really enjoy reading. It would just make me go, that's lazy, and I can't be involved in that.
I think people who are using AI is to impress other people that use AI. And they're like, look how clever I am, look at my cool robot that's done a cool robot thing. I don't think any real people are looking at it thinking, oh, thank God someone's done this. This is what we needed right now.
Yeah.
So I wrote a blog the other week about things that I actually want AI to solve. And it includes things like finding end of sellotape, carrying shopping bags from the car that are too heavy, giving the cats their flea treatment. There's loads of shit in the world that I can't do. And stuff in the world that everyone finds a problem. Copywriting isn't something that people can't do. We've already solved that problem with copywriters. So I don't see why we've created this technology to effectively write shit copy when good copy already exists.
This is completely, again, off tangent, but my partner and I have been rewatching Futurama because
Lovely.
Why not? And the robots in Futurama are all designed for a specific purpose, and they all have their own function. Like the main robot, Bender, is literally designed to bend metal.
Yeah.
That's his one purpose. If we could reach a place where the robots and the AI that we do have is designed for one specific purpose and they're able to do that, perfect. Fly free, little bird.
Yeah.
That is fine by me. But there is also then that element of, I don't want somebody down the road who has not trained to be a copywriter, who has not had 10, 15, 20 years worth of experience as a copywriter to come in and say, I generated this in 5 seconds. Here you go. It's the same kind of quality, because it simply isn't. And yes, you can take the time to create your AI generated content and to edit it and to get it to a more human level. But the problem is if the skeleton of the thing is damaged and is broken already, then the outside of the things are gonna, it's just like sticking a plaster over a bullet wound. It's just it doesn't cover it. You can't hide it that well. And somebody with a good eye for being able to pick out certain things that make human generated content, human generated, someone with a good eye for picking those things out will be able to pick it out in 5 seconds.
It's like a microwave meal. It's still food. It'll still taste nice. But if you compare it to a meal cooked by a famous chef or a meal you've cooked with love and attention, it'll taste better. So it'll give you the nutrients-ish, and it'll be warm, and it'll make you feel full. But you won't feel happy eating it. You won't invite friends around to eat it. You won't want to share a picture of it on Instagram. Whereas if you put love and heart and training into something, it's always going to be better than if you just do the quick fix.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the special, I don't know, that's the secret ingredient of human generated, of human written, I don't know why I'm saying human generated, human written copy, is the love and the heart and the personality that is able to go into it that makes it so readable, makes it so engaging. There's so much that can be said around this one topic, and I mean, we could sit and talk for hours and hours about it, but we'll move swiftly on so that we don't get hung up on the AI of it all. So I would love to know, seeing as where your stance on the whole AI of it all is, I'd love to know, do you see copywriting evolving over the next few years with this advancement in AI? What's your kind of take on that?
I see it getting harder for junior copywriters to get jobs. And that's scary, because I think I got my leg up by getting a junior job at an agency and following a quite traditional career path.
Yeah.
Whereas now a lot of those junior jobs are being done by people who think AI can just churn this out cheaper than paying somebody. And I think that's scary, because you're getting fewer opportunities for junior creatives to start out in jobs.
Yeah.
And I don't know what way around that is for them, whether they're going to have to start freelancing before they're really ready to start freelancing, or whether they're going to have to try and jump up a few steps in their career. I don't really know. I don't think it's going to be a long-term problem, because I think you're starting to see the tide shift already now, where people are thinking, well, why would I pay an agency to do AI when I could do it myself?
Yeah.
What's the point? And I think I saw Disney had invested loads of money in using AI for the new Moana, realized it wasn't very good, and they've had to pay people to fix it. Like 3 years ago, a friend of mine said, why would people pay you to write a blog when I could pay AI to write a blog? That same friend has come back to me and has since paid me to do some copywriting for him. So I'm like, haha, that's why.
Joke's on you.
Touche. I've never lost work to AI, despite what LinkedIn says will happen. It's never happened to me. I don't know anyone else who it's happened to either. To answer your question and stop going off tangent into an anti-AI rant, which again, I could have gone for hours. With several pints in my body, I'd just be fighting a robot in the streets. I'd be fighting a cash machine. Like, robots are taking over. I think it's going to make it harder for juniors to get a job. And I think people that have been doing the job for a long time will have to lend more of a helping hand to juniors to give them that step up they need. Something we should be doing anyway. We should be sharing our experience. And hopefully, I think agencies will see that there's talent in young creatives rather than robots.
My entire stance on where copywriting is going is more or less exactly the same. I just worry for newer copywriters coming in that they're going to be forced into using these AI tools to write because it's quicker and cheaper and more convenient for the higher ups. And that's a deeply worrying
from doing it.
Stance.
They won't craft their skills by using AI because AI will fix all their mistakes and it'll make it all sound polished and neat and tidy.
Yeah.
And that's not what makes good copywriting. What you need is to write something terrible and be told it's terrible and see your work torn in half in front of you.
Yeah.
That's how you learn how to be a copywriter.
Yeah, exactly. You learn how by failing upwards. That's
exactly.
I mean, it's not just copywriter specific. That's everything specific. You fail upwards, and you train and you train and you train and you train until you're an expert. That's my only concern. Is I worry that people that are coming into this career because they want to write are going to be told that they're not able to write because it's not as cost effective.
Which is it's sad. I don't see how it benefits the economy in the long run. I don't see how it benefits the industry in the long run. Agencies wanting to earn big money won't be able to charge big money if the client thinks you're just using a robot to do this because they could do the same thing.
Yeah.
Agencies can charge and can do the good work because they've got people that think differently. And you need to hire those people and train them to think differently and let them fail, let them make mistakes, let them have fun in a job in order to keep the industry thriving and to keep agencies growing and generally make better work.
So moving away completely from work now, I would love to know, is there a writer, and it could be a novelist, it could be a biographer, a copywriter, a screenwriter, a songwriter, whoever, that you particularly admire?
There's a couple. I love Dave Trott's books. I love Dave Trott's blog. Dave Trott writes in a way that I wish I could write, thinks in a way I wish I could think. But then there's a reason he's Dave Trott and I'm not, because he can do that. I think if ever I'm stuck for an idea, reading one of his books, which are nice bite-sized books, like you don't have to sit down and read them for ages. You can read them in an afternoon. You can read them, like I've taken them on holiday and read them by a pool, and my wife's gone, "Why are you reading workworks by the swimming pool?" I'm like, because it's fun. It's a fun book. Reading his stuff always inspires me to do better work. And then away from advertising, I love the work of Bob Mortimer. I love everything Bob Mortimer has ever said, ever done, ever been in. He's the silliest man the world has ever produced. And he's written some really, really funny books, which are almost like thrillers, but in Bob Mortimer's own unique sense.
Yeah.
And I'll read them, I'll listen to him, and I'll laugh out loud in places I shouldn't be laughing. And just because he's a very stupid man. And he just writes, he thinks in a way that, you couldn't train your brain to think. I'd give him a knighthood if I believed in the knighthood system. I think he should be heralded as some kind of deity on the planet.
We'll give him an honorary knighthood without the implications of imperialism and
yes.
Yeah, fantastic! Congratulations, Bob Mortimer, on your the first
imaginary knighthood.
Yeah, the inaugural copy that knighthood. Oh, perfect. So I'm just moving on to the last two questions that I have for you now.
Okay.
So when I write, I like to listen to a lot of ambient music. I've been listening to a lot of like droning shoegaze lately because it completely turns my mind off and I can just sit there and write, even though that is something that I need my mind for, but it helps me just like quiet the rest of it and let the writing come out. So I'm just wondering, do you have any recommendations for things to listen to? So podcast, album, audiobook, particular genre, what should we be listening to?
Well, I've got a 4-month-old son at home at the minute.
Yeah.
I'd highly recommend not listening to that. He's learned this really sort of nasal sound at the minute, which I can't replicate and wouldn't want to replicate. And he can hold his breath for a stupid amount of time doing this noise. And he does it when he's happy, does it when he's sad, does it when he's hungry, does it when he's sleeping. And it's kind of like this horrible white noise in the background of my life. So yeah, don't listen to that. So at the moment, I'm enjoying silence.
Yep.
And I used to hate working in silence. I used to find that really hard. But now it's like a really lovely relief just to sit there in quiet. When it's been sunny, I've opened the window and I've just heard nature and hearing birds tweeting and my cat's playing in the garden and stuff like that is lovely. When I haven't got a 4-month-old son, which I'm led to believe I will always have a son now, so that noise will always be there. But before him, I used to listen to a lot of kind of that sort of music.
Yeah.
That was just had no words in it, because words on the radio and stuff distract me, and I start writing what they're saying. Whereas listening to just kind of monotonous techno music that is kind of horrible at the same time as it is relaxing, where you don't have to think too much, it just gets your mind into this state of almost hallucinating while you're working. And you can't sing along to it, so you don't get distracted by enjoying yourself too much. It's just kind of there to make some noise.
Yeah.
But then I've recently got into my Radio 6 era, and I think that's because I'm a dad now.
Yeah.
So there's some Radio 6 shows that are really good, and we'll just play songs you've not heard before. They'll take you back in time to songs you've not heard for years. That's generally quite nice if you're writing a longer piece of copy, because you can just sit there and feel like you're being hooked by the radio.
Yeah, we're a Radio 6 office here, so I mean it's constantly on. I am not a parent, and yet I am a Radio 6 dad without children, so I'm just missing the children. Yeah, I mean the kind of ambient sort of techno music, that's a bit of me. So I mean, if you're looking for any kind of recommendations for anything like that, the score for the film Challengers from last year, that was by the Nine Inch Nails guys, the whose names are escaping me, but yeah, great film score. That's really that's great for that kind of vibe. But yeah, okay, perfect. Well, we're on to the last question now, and I just want to take this time to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us and to be here. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
I've enjoyed myself.
Yeah, well, brilliant. I mean, if I can make this a place for copywriters to come and enjoy themselves and escape their 4-month-old children for an hour, then
that's what it is.
I've done my bit. So I just want to know and let the people know where they can find you and your work online.
You can find me by searching the name Ash Billinghay, and you will only find me. I did find yesterday that 2 copywriting agencies are paid to appear above me on Google, which I find it flattering. Very honoured that they've chosen to do that. Scroll past those ads, and then you'll see my name. There's only one of me. If you search on LinkedIn, you'll find me. If you search on Instagram, don't search on Instagram. You don't want to find me there. That is just pictures of my son or my cats occasionally, or my garden. It's really boring on my Instagram. It's like, oh, he's got some tomatoes, well done him. Oh, his child's dribbled, amazing. But find me on LinkedIn. I'm funny on LinkedIn. I regularly get 3 or 4 likes on my posts. They're that good. I went through a phase of posting a duck picture every day for a while. That was fun. If you want fun and games on LinkedIn and to escape the usual cliched stuff, come follow me. Have fun there. And if you want to pay me for work, visit ashbillinghay.com and look at all the beautiful words I've written for other people, read the very stupid stuff I've written about myself, and then send me an email and we'll have a chat about doing it together.
Perfect. Well, everybody go and check out Ash. I'll make sure to link your website in the show notes, whatever they're called. And yeah, thanks so much for taking the time to be here. I really, really appreciate it. And everyone, thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.